Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Authority File, the award-nominated podcast where you'll hear conversations with academic librarians, technologists, researchers, and authors whose work is laying the foundation for higher education's future. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. So along with the posting of our 300th episode in December, we learned that The Authority File, along with its sister podcast Toward Inclusive Excellence, has been nominated in several categories for the 2023 Publisher Podcast Awards. We'll be keeping our fingers crossed until April, when they'll hopefully become award-winning podcasts. So now on to this episode. There are a lot of headline-making events out there today, and two that are perpetually sitting near the top of our list here at the Authority File are cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Of course, in our niche part of the world, these two topics typically mean research theft and, non-human research. But of course, cybersecurity and AI touch almost every aspect of our lives. Don't even get me started on the Internet of Things. But for now, though, we're going to look at mobility, as in cars, trucks, aerospace, and all of the things that transport and move people and products. If you stop and think, it won't take you long to realize how important cybersecurity and AI have become in the mobility world. Joining me to talk about this are Adrian Guan and Tim Weisenberger, who are both product managers at SAE International. SAE is an association for engineers and other technical experts in the aerospace, automotive, and commercial vehicle industries, and like many other associations of its size, it provides standards development, publications, live events, and other resources to professionals, researchers, and academics in these fields. Adrian is SAE's expert on AI, and Tim is responsible for cybersecurity. In this 4-part series, we'll be looking at how AI and cybersecurity impact mobility, as well as the real-life academic applications of SAE's work. This series is brought to you with support from SAE International. In this second episode, Adrian describes the impact artificial intelligence has had on mobility and why it's a unique challenge to the engineering process in the mobility industry. Okay, so I want to jump over to AI for a little bit, and we'll come back to cybersecurity a little bit later. Adrian, can you describe AI's distinct characteristics and their impact on mobility?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually one of my favorite topics because I frequently talk about this to trade ideas with the professionals, both in the AI field and in the mobility field.
Hmm.
So I think people, at least in mobility field, sometimes find AI is a concept very hard to grasp. Um, it does have a lot of different characteristics, as you mentioned. Here, I just want to point out two. So first is the data, not human based inference that usually drives AI or machine learning approach. So what I mean by that, in other words, AI systems are generally inductive. They are characterized by the inference of general laws from particular instances. Let me give you an example. Suppose we are tasked to design a pedestrian detection system in an intersection.
Right.
So what we do, in that case, we set out to find out what the pedestrians are like. Their height, their width, their shape, their color, and moving speed. So we come back and do some analysis and probably make some reference. Say, if an object is in this kind of shape or that kind of shape, you say between 2 or 7 feet with some sort of range, and we categorize those as pedestrian or with a moving speed within a range. So that's how we human design a pedestrian detection system. But if we put that, as for the camera to detect, currently the way that machine learning or AI-based approach is, we just feed tons of images or videos, into the algorithm without telling them, what attribute to look for in this for pedestrian. But we tell them, okay, this image has pedestrian in this, this video stream has pedestrian in this. And somehow the algorithm, the AI learns by itself to find those attributes. Those attributes could be different from those attributes that you use to describe by human.
Mm.
And, somehow the machine inherently sort of make inference by themselves. So that's the main difference of AI, and all those inferences are made by using the data and build a model around this. So it's very machine-centric approach, very much different from other disciplines. That's what sort of AI's main difference in this characteristic.
Mhm.
The second one is sort of more technical, but I want to get this point across as AI, as most people are using right now, AI systems are stochastic. That means the system itself inherently has some sort of randomness. So what does it mean? So system output is generated following some sort of probability. Everything follows probability. So in the example I give you, those attributes, you know, follow some distribution probability. And, you know, in engineering field, most of us are very used to deal with, probability or stochastic system.
Mhm.
But the problem with AI is some of those randomness are introduced by the design of the AI schemes and implementation. So those randomness are not just from the environment. They are from the building of AI algorithm in the modeling process, optimization, training, as opposed to from the external factors. So therefore, it is usually harder to reduce those inherent randomness. I think those two probably just give you a general idea where AI differs from other technologies,
Mhm.
and those require the professionals to have a new mindset and expertise to accommodate those characteristics. For example, usually in product design, we have a process to build product specification to describe a component's function or performance. But those specifications themselves would be hard to define in the context of AI because those specifications are actually determined by the data, by the AI algorithm. It's not defined by human.
Mhm.
So, and the randomness, in the AI scheme would complicate the specification development process. In the end, everything is so much more complicated, and the process will be so much different than the process where we are building those specifications right now. So those open questions sometimes, call into doubt some of the basic premises that the mobility industry engineering process. So, we cannot ignore those distinct characteristics. And I think that's what we are hoping to find a solution together with the industry partner, at least at this point, to raise awareness as those characteristics demand a lot of attention and demand the industry collectively to figure out a solution.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if I'm hearing this correctly, that in order to arrive at some sort of standardization or to be able to implement some sort of policy perspective on this, that the AI would have to, in some sense, complete its learning process, especially in the example that you gave me, where it's monitoring sort of pedestrian traffic. You don't want to implement it before it's completely uh, before it understands the full range of what a pedestrian actually is. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, what are the roles of the human researcher or engineers in this
Mm.
process, right? Previously we are the one to make up those attributes, or develop those sheets. But now a lot of this process is automated or semi-automated or at
Right.
least, enhanced by AI.
Mm.
And what do we need to do as human in this process, and how we work with the AI algorithm, and how we verify the performance of that.
Yeah.
Those sort of things are all sort of emerging open topics that this our field is dealing with.
Okay. So then, Can you provide some examples of how AI is utilized in mobility applications, and sort of the importance of addressing AI from that real life sort of application perspective?
Absolutely. Since SE covers both ground transportation and aerospace, I'll just start with aerospace, which
Hmm.
I'm not very familiar with. As SAE published a information report last year to describe use cases of AI in aeronautical systems. For example, remotely piloted aircraft system, air traffic control, ground inspection system, air maneuver planning, and collision avoidance system for unmanned aircraft. On ground transportation, obviously the first one is automated driving. Everyone is talking about, and more generally, just advanced driver assistance systems such as lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control. But here I want to drive home a point. Sort of AI is actually bigger than just automation because there are a lot of other applications that we can see um, in AI for ground mobility. For example, in 2020, Department of Transportation issued a report list over 60 AI applications for intelligent transport systems, such as transportation systems management and operations, commercial vehicle and freight operations, traveler decision support tools, transit operations management, and emergency management. Out of those, 13 are in the publication phase and 21 are in the prototype phase. Um, Additionally, we can see AI widely adopted on some other scenarios, such as onboard technologies, people interface with the vehicle using voice recognition. That's the typical AI applications and driver vehicle interface. And in driving education, that we have seen a lot of simulators out there just to educate the drivers in maneuver the vehicle in adverse road conditions or weather conditions, or just to combat driver distraction.
Hmm.
And more broadly, we've seen a growing number of other sort of robotic devices, or should I call it road users on the street, sort of deliver the goods on the sidewalk, or on the street. And, that obviously has gone beyond robotic topics because it carries implications on the mobility systems operation and safety. There are a lot of other implications out of those new type of devices.
Hmm.
So AI is just very much everywhere.
That's true. Um, so, a question I had is like the mobility market obviously is very highly standardized and regulated, and AI is such an emergent field. Um, how does SAE sort of bridge that gap between that tightly managed market like mobility and AI, which is yet to be regulated in so many ways?
Indeed, SE standards are referencing regulations and documents in the regulation development process. I think the roles of SAE is to bridge the gap between standardized terms and definitions and performance-based recommendation practices and standards such as test procedures, safety levels, and reference links.
Hmm.
Um, SAE is also serving as a convener of subject matter experts of various sources, such as from manufacturers, suppliers, researchers, government and academic institutions. So the comprehensive committee member ensure that the document we create actually are serving the general benefit and they are practical and they are essential for the rulemaking process. And I would also add one point that the application domain knowledge that SAE is able to cultivate is very essential in AI development. Uh, a lot of people, think of AI as a black box. They
Right.
don't bother to crack it open. But as a matter of fact, that we need to at least know how that can be used to serve our benefit and avoid unintended consequences in our domain. That's where domain knowledge of applications sort of place AI in context. So in the example of pedestrian detection, right, it's important to reach a level of accuracy in the detection. Yet it's also essential that we want to make sure that all type of pedestrians, in different skin colors or, on a wheelchair or walking a dog, they can all be detected with a high accuracy. And some of those things actually come from the domain knowledge. When AI design an algorithm, they often sort of take out those context information to be abstract so that the algorithm can involve itself and learn by itself. But I think that is the domain knowledge that SAE is able to cultivate, sort of place those AI in context and also in check.
Okay. Um, so I take it that SAE does not currently have a journal dedicated to AI. Is there any consideration underway to launch one?
You're right. So at this moment, SAE does not have a dedicated AI journal. We are feeling the need by launching several special issues
Mm.
among different SE publications. This serves as a test for us to see whether there's actually need to launch a new journal. I think it's very interesting in a sort of a uh, broader sense as what kind of AI journal that one publisher would like to produce, because AI is a shared topic among different disciplines for different applications of interest of in different domains. Yet we have to explore to see whether mobility researchers or professionals find that much need to learn from each other's lessons in adopting AI. For example, someone in commercial vehicle space, how much do they see the value in AI, say, being adopted in electric vehicle or aerospace? Until we find that we can cultivate a audience and have the authorship and readership base to support a journal to covering that,
Mm.
we're still try to explore how to best serve those audience. And this is also probably related to what some librarians will be interested to know is, there are a lot of AI applications or papers everywhere scattered around in different journals.
Hmm.
Um, I think that maybe I see at some point can help librarians to understand the taxonomy, in the standard document we provide, or help to curate those AI contents as those other content are scattered everywhere in different publications.
You just heard from Adrian Guan and Tim Weisenberger, who are both product managers at SAE International. Adrian is SAE's expert on AI, and Tim is responsible for cybersecurity. Join us next week as we switch from artificial intelligence to cybersecurity, and Tim walks us through its history with the mobility industry and how standards of practice are put into place. This 4-part series is brought to you with support from SAE International.
First, I would say it's very, very difficult. And if you're asking, how do we do this? Well, it kind of breaks the standard development model because standards are developed around mature things, mature systems and products. So it's really tough to do a standard on something that's immature. And so you were kind of going through all of that with Adrian around AI. And every one of those use cases that, you could go into is a whole nother noodle soup of problems.
As always, underwriting opportunities for the Authority File podcast are directed by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced and edited by Choice's digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer, with support from digital media assistant, Ashley Roy. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.